Kubernetes for Humans.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Kubernetes for Humans podcast. Today in the show, I have two guests and not only one. So, if you can, please introduce yourself. Julia, you start.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. My name is Julia, and I work with Michael at Veeam. And we're probably going to talk about my journey, but I come from a non-traditional background. I used to be a lawyer, and then I worked in marketing for a few years, and then got into this world of cloud native, Kubernetes, platform engineering, DevOps. First was very overwhelmed, but yeah, I'm very involved in the CNCF community. I'm a CNCF ambassador. I'm also an AWS container hero. I work with also like civil ambassador for several programs. I really like not just working with technology, but I think I like working with the people behind the technology. I think that's why I think it's so important to be in these communities, going to events. But yeah, I can talk a little bit more about how I got started later on and after Michael introduces himself.
Yeah, Michael, go for it.
Yeah, hey everyone. Yeah, so I come more from a sysadmin type background, virtualization, storage, data center type workloads, backup. I've been at Veeam for just over 10 years now. So live and breathe backup and data resilience. But the inflection point around platform engineering, sysadmin, or is a sysadmin ultimately just evolving into that platform engineering group, keeping the lights on, getting stuff out there, automating everything, orchestrate everything. And that's really been my last 5 years at Veeam, is trying to evangelize and advocate for different ways of thinking about how we consider data protection, data, when it comes to platform engineering. Normally, when you're speaking to platform engineering team, they don't necessarily think too much about the data and the storage.
No, data is another team. Michael, complete different team. But before we jump into like the technical of data, I will be super happy to hear about like really like the journey of both of you. So if like each can do like in 2 minutes. So Michael, I'll let you start this time. And if you can like in 2 minutes, like it feels like a bit less traditional, more traditional, right? Like sysadmin talking about platform engineering is a bit less unique. But where did you start? What happened? And how come you are in Vim like for 10 years? So if you can like share your journey in a couple of
Yeah,
minutes.
so 16 years ago, 17 years ago, I started off on the help desk, helping both end users and businesses with their computer problems, right? These are people in different parts of the business that don't know what they're doing. And then I moved into more focused areas around storage and virtualization, VMware and NetApp storage. And that's when I came across Veeam. Veeam was interesting to me because it integrated into everything. It was the Switzerland to any platform, any storage, and it had a lot of integration, bells and whistles to make that happen. So I was interested in getting into that. I think more recently it's been more around like M&A and being involved in the acquisition of Kasten, which is focused on protecting Kubernetes, and then that leapfrogged me into the world of DevOps, creating a little project called 90 Days of DevOps, just as we came out of the pandemic. But yeah, that's me in 2 minutes as to how did I get here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for me, I would say it was kind of a how do you say serendipity? I was, like I said, meeting people in the community. I was doing a coding boot camp.
No. You have to start before that. Like you said you are a lawyer, and now
Yes, a lawyer.
anymore. Oh, but
That's not gonna be 2 minutes. But yeah, trying to
highlight.
highlights, yes. I was a lawyer in Brazil. I'm from Brazil originally. And when I moved to the US, I studied business and then I started working in marketing. And my last job was at an MSP, so managed service provider. And I knew I wanted to become more technical. I just didn't know how to, but I saw there was a coding bootcamp online that was about to start for free. and I jumped on it. And I started, studying by myself, coding mostly with a bootcamp, but also learning cloud, very little Kubernetes. I didn't know much about it, but because I was, networking with people online on social media, Twitter was a thing back then. This was 4 years ago. Now it's totally different. But I was meeting a lot of people online, and I met someone online, and they came to New York, for work, and we ended up meeting in person, and they gave me a ticket to go to KubeCon. So that's how I got started. I wasn't planning on, getting my hands dirty with cloud native tools or anything. I was planning to become a software engineer. But then going to KubeCon, it was, enlightening. I saw there is a whole new world there, and so many people passionate about these technologies. And I decided to jump on it and start learning, studying, hosting my website on Kubernetes, and little game server and small things. Obviously, always breaking things and trying to debug a YAML. But I think that's my journey, and also contributing a lot to open source. I speak 4 languages, and I've been doing a lot of translation from documentation, also white papers from the tag, working groups tag, so helping with that. And I think connecting people in the community, people that need help with something, mentoring other people in the community. So I think that's how I got started. And now I work with Michael. We're on the same team at Veeam, and working with a great team around Kasten as well, so backup for Kubernetes, and trying to raise awareness about the need for backup, because it's the last thing people think about, especially when we're talking about cloud native applications, etc. Most of them are stateless, and now they're starting to run databases on Kubernetes, etc. But we go to these conferences, KubeCon, KCDs, to talk about that, because it's really important. Yeah.
Okay, so like
For,
a very interesting story. I feel both of you like talked a bit about Vim, but maybe like give some more like context of, I think for like the average person, it's not necessarily like a household name. It's in my head somewhere there next to NetApp and Nutanix. I might get it like completely wrong.
Interesting.
But if you don't mind, like explain
Yeah,
how old is the company? What are you guys doing? Why are you doing that? How did Kubernetes change stuff? So let's do a bit on the company itself.
yeah, go ahead, Michael.
yeah. So Veeam's just coming up to around 17 years old, and Veeam started off protecting virtual machines specifically on VMware and then Microsoft Hyper-V, and it was the virtual machines, and obviously we all know the applications and the data, the databases that lived on top of those machines, and how critical that infrastructure or that wave of virtualization was. So Veeam first started in regards to protecting those in an application consistent way, being able to recover them as fast as possible. Then that fast forward 17 years, we've got multiple platforms, multiple hypervisors. I've been calling it the hypervisor Hunger Games with what's going on with the current virtualization landscape, including VMs on Kubernetes, as well as VMs in the public cloud. Equally, we've got cloud-based services, public cloud-based services, RDS, Azure SQL, Google, blah, blah, blah. So they need protecting. SaaS-based workloads, Microsoft 365, Salesforce, Kubernetes, like they're all different platforms that run our workloads on a day-to-day basis. I think it was easier when I was a sysadmin 20 years ago, where I just looked after physical data centers, physical servers, maybe some virtualization, and I had to protect that. Now we've got data all over the place. We've got data in SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, like you name it, you've probably got some data somewhere. So where Veeam have started off as virtualization backup, it's extended out to being able to protect workloads, hitting the line of security. So you're not backing up bad data, you're not recovering bad data, But interesting that you mentioned like the NetApp and the Nutanix. So NetApp, to me, they're a storage company. We're agnostic. We're not storage. You bring your own storage. Put your backups somewhere that you want. That could be object storage. That could be a dedupe device, a NAS, a SAN, etc. But we're not storage. You're going to bring your own storage. You're going to choose. Nutanix, however, obviously a bit more of a platform play. They have their own hypervisor that we support. They equally have their own virtualization and Kubernetes distribution as well that we support from a custom. But it's about all of those are just different platforms that we protect. So not as like for like, but interesting that you said that, because I think that's an interesting take.
I don't know, like you say data to me like that's like the first, like that's the first things that come to mind.
That's
So
where you
maybe,
store it, right?
yeah, so maybe like share a bit like why do I need you guys, or like in general, like not even you, like, I'll give you like a real example. Like, right, I work in Commodore, I'm the CTO here. We don't use you guys, like we don't use anything other than like AWS.
You should.
Yeah.
So
So
what am I doing wrong, or what should I start doing like starting tomorrow?
So I think the first fundamental reason why you need to consider resilience of data is not just about backup and recovery. That's when bad things happen, but equally it becomes part of the security posture as well, equally around portability. But I think the one thing that I'd say to you is like, what happens when bad things happen? And again, if I go back to sysadmin days, bad things happen was misconfiguration, accidental deletion, natural disasters, fire, flood, and blood. Now in 2025, we have the very topical concept of ransomware or cybersecurity.
Okay.
People are attacking supply chain. They're attacking all over all of that data. They're trying to exfiltrate that data. So backups become even more important, because if something's encrypted in your production environment, then you want to be able to bring that back. And that's more general across all platforms. You mentioned AWS, and you're probably using AWS backup. Now with AWS backup, and I've not got anything against AWS. They're very good friends of ours, as they are everyone's. But one thing from an AWS backup,
AWS is like controlling like all of the market, but yeah, we're all here like good friends of AWS.
Yeah.
So from an AWS backup point of view, they're going to be storing it in EBS snapshots. Like, so snapshots are great for really fast recovery, but they cost you a fortune. I'd hate to think, or maybe I'd like to think, how much AWS actually make on snapshots. So where Veeam come in, we offload that off to cheaper, deeper storage into AWS S3, or even better, off to a different location completely, so that you can recover that workload wherever you need it to be. And then that brings me round to the last point around portability. So if you've got EC2 instances running in AWS, AWS backup, funnily enough, is only going to let you recover those workloads into AWS. Veeam gives you the ability to recover them into other public clouds, other hypervisors, even in a way we can get it onto Kubernetes as well.
Okay. Now I think I'm starting to get it a bit more. So I have like a couple of questions. There's like an Israeli company named Eon or something like that that does similar stuff, or I'm like completely again like not
I
part.
think I've heard EON, right?
Yeah, Eon. Like those guys sold the backup company to AWS, and like they are like back then they talked quite a lot about backup, but maybe it's not really what they do.
No, I'm looking them up. It says turn cloud backups into large strategic assets. I think, yeah, that's something they do backup as well. But no, I don't know them
No.
well. Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like a trick question. Again, trying to better understand. So what you're saying, just to take what you said right now, maybe I'm doing stuff correctly, right? Like I do have quite a lot of backup for pretty much everything in Commodore. What you're saying is that you're able to save me a bunch of money and maybe make it a bit more portable, which for me is not that big, because I'm quite hooked to AWS already. So like backup won't be like the last thing that will stop me from not using AWS.
Yeah, and
So
that's fair enough, right? I think
um,
it's all about choice. The
right.
other area that we see a lot is customers, they get from on-prem into the public cloud, into AWS, and they're using EC2 instances, and then they're putting their database on top of that. AWS backup has no inside information about that
Yeah.
VM and the database. So you could take a snapshot as much as you like, and this might lead us into the Kubernetes world of data services as well. But
Mhm.
AWS backup is just going to look at the image-based layer. It's not going to be able to coerce the workload. It's not going to be able to talk to Postgres or Oracle or blah, blah, blah. So it's just going to be like pulling the power cable out of the back of the server.
Mhm.
And that's going to be the point in time that you get. Whereas what we do is a little bit more application consistent, dive into the application, tell the application this is what we're going to do, and then coerce that workload and take that backup. But if you've already moved on to your, like, I would always say that EC2 might be the start of the game in the cloud, but you should always be looking how do I get those databases out of an EC2 and into
Mhm.
RDS or into Dynamo or into
Yeah.
something else.
And even if you're running them on RDS or Dynamo, we also protect those. We protect even VPCs that a lot of companies they don't protect, but it's helpful in case of a disaster. You can like quickly get your configurations back. But it's good because you have everything in one central place. You can manage everything from like the VBR, Veeam backup and replication, and especially for a backup administrators, it's much easier than having to go to AWS to take care of AWS backups, and then they have workload somewhere else, and they need to manage another tool. So with Veeam, it's centralized in one place. We have also like using security tools to see if
Mhm.
scanning all the backups and everything. Now we're implementing AI. Obviously, everyone is. So
Well,
I think everything, all of this is helpful to the backup teams, backup administrators.
okay, that makes, I think, like total sense. Now maybe maybe like one more thing that I'm trying to understand. You said that it should like interest more like platform engineers or something like that. Maybe if you can share like who should care about that. Like I'm the CTO, right? Like I do sign quite a lot of documents, so disaster recovery is quite important for us, and that is like one of the primary use cases that we do. We do backups. But who is like the typical buyer of something like that? Who should care about that? If I'm opening a startup, how soon should they have backups? And if you can like shed a bit more color on like how does this product actually fit in the normal like day to day?
Yeah, and it's a good question because I think we see a bit of everyone. Like not every CEO or CTO even cares about data either. Like they will do when something bad happens because it's their business that's going to go down or going to have problems. Generally speaking, if there's not a backup team, and again with a startup, you probably don't have a dedicated backup
I
team,
don't have a backup team. No, I don't
a
have
backup person. Like even then, like it's the role and responsibility of whoever is in charge of that data, and that might be the application owner. So what
Uh-huh.
I'm getting at is really it's anyone that's responsible for data should have that mindset of being able to protect it. Um, and we work with. It used to be we'd just walk in and speak to the backup administrator or backup team, and that or the virtualization admin or the cloud engineering team. Actually, the world of siloing things like DevOps, platform engineering, SREs, systems administrators, it's a much easier talk track because application DBAs. It it really depends who cares. I would always say that we're bottom of everyone's Christmas list. Backup is boring, and I say that with a smile. I've been here 10 years, um, but equally, it's the insurance policy that we all have to have. Like all of us have to have insurance on our cars, regardless of where we are in the world. We have to have it on our house. Like it's the same for backup and our data. Um, it's just whether someone's had an experience that means they need to protect that workload or know that they need to protect that workload. So I guess maybe given that you're conscious of backups and data protection and disaster recovery, that maybe something's happened in the past that gives you that inside
Well,
information.
I'm not sure if it really happened as much as like I work in companies that were very like backup aware, as well as I feel a lot of it come from regulation. Also a bit like insurance,
Sure.
like in Israel. I'm not sure again how is it in the States, but in Israel you have to have an insurance, right? Like you buy a car, you have to like buy an insurance. If you do SOC 2 disaster recovery, I'm quite sure that I signed a bunch of stuff regarding like my backup, right? Like I'm quite sure that I have like a whole document on what happens when things go south. So like I wonder like the most of your customers come from we have a compliance to meet, or it's after the fact. I don't know, like after they delete all of their like production database and they forgot that they don't really have a backup. So yeah, like
So
maybe.
I think it's a bit of everything really. Like people only do things after they've been bitten, right? They don't do it
Or
to be
someone forced them.
reactive and proactive.
I'm telling you, like SOC is a really good reason to do a bunch of stuff that are good. Like SOC has a lot of downsides, I think, but it does forces you to confront some of the real like issues, right? Like DR is again, it's important, right? Like not only from a backup perspective, from the process and how do you do it and how do you set up. But yeah, sorry.
So I think I completely agree, and I think even more so across EMEA. More recently, more
Yeah.
like the last 3 to 4 years, we've seen a lot more regulation directives around data and how we use data, where we store data, and I think that is a driving force to a lot of the features and functionality that we've built into our platform. But equally, it's a forcing function for businesses to do something rather than just leave it at the bottom of the shopping list.
So maybe share a bit like on the like you are there for 10 years and Julie, like feel free to jump in. Like, but what changed? Like if we look at the last 10 years, right? Since you joined the company, what are the latest trends? What do we see? Where are we going to be maybe like in a couple of years in this like backup space? Like yeah, like what's interesting?
So I think when I started, it was just VMware. It was VMware. It was Microsoft Hyper-V, but it was generally VMware. Every single shop that we spoke to would have VMware and virtual machines. Then I would say, probably starting, I would say 5 years ago, we started to see the adoption, or at least that start of Kubernetes becoming in those companies as well, in the public cloud, probably 8 years. SaaS as well. So not only what I'm saying is, so virtualization kind of was the start for me at Veeam, but ultimately then it became multiple platforms. We have workloads here, there, and everywhere, but there's still the same underpinning requirement of that insurance policy still exists. We just have to talk to these different platforms potentially in a different way. Like one of the key differentiators that Veeam came out with was when Veeam first started protecting virtual machines on VMware, we didn't install an agent like our competitors at the time. We just went into the vSphere API and we did it agentless and brought in things like change bot tracking and everything that we did that way. Very similar to what Kasten did from a Kubernetes perspective is Kubernetes gets deployed within your Kubernetes cluster, becomes part of the Kubernetes API via CRDs and aggregated APIs, and you can obviously interact with a nice flashy web UI, or you can interact with it via the Kubernetes API using kubectl or whatever tool you want to interact, right? And what I mean by that is that where we've gone after these multiple platforms to protect them, we've just done that in a methodical way, a more efficient way to what needs to happen versus, oh, we've got an agent that backs up these physical machines. Let's just throw that agent on a virtual machine. There's obviously a lot of ways in which you can move data. It's how you recover that data when bad things happen. So being part of that API or using that API is the win from that perspective. I think what we'll see, like just very quickly, in what we're going to see over the next 18 months, 2 years, is more adoption around Kubernetes. Probably the hype around AI workloads and data intensive
Yeah.
workloads is only going to drive the adoption there. I think we'll also see some more SaaS based applications that we offload a lot of that admin overhead off to. We've already seen it, like Salesforce, Workday. I'm sure the M365. You could name Restream. We're literally using Restream now, whereas however long ago we would have been using OBS or something else,
Yeah.
right? So
Also, VMs on Kubernetes is a big thing as well with KubeVirt.
Yeah,
Now
we see
we've
it
been
more
seeing
and
a
more.
lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So Julia, maybe like a question for you, because I know that you mentioned that you love speaking. How do you take something like backups, which again, like I don't feel it's like necessarily like the sexiest thing, and like how do you
No.
add some interest into it, if like if any, like so
I
maybe.
add AI to it. No, I'm joking. But yeah, usually it's talking about data protection, the need of it. And usually I show headlines from newspapers about ransomware attacks that happened in that certain location where I'm speaking, because it happens a lot every day, more than we think. And sometimes, companies, they get attacked over and over because they recover their data, but the data is infected. So I think I don't talk much about Veeam when I'm giving talks
No.
at KubeCon or other events, but mostly the need for data protection, backup. You need to think about that. It's usually the last thing companies think about. I was talking to a friend. He's a senior platform engineer at a very big company enterprise, and he said, "Oh, I wanna hear what Kasten do, because we have everything set up, but we don't have backup yet."
Uh-huh.
So I was like, "Oh my god, it's so important. You're an enterprise." So yeah, I think it's mostly about raising awareness about the need of data protection.
Okay, no, that makes total sense. So we don't have a lot of time, but like you did mention like a bit the AI boom, right? So maybe like what is really going to change maybe on that regard. So if let's say that all I want to do is like Kubernetes and inference and training, and like that's it. So now do I need backup more or less? Like it feels to me a bit more infer. So maybe the data is not that important, but maybe I got it
yeah,
wrong. So
I think there's two aspects to that, in my opinion, and one is how much did the vectorizing or the inference cost you? If that
sure.
process is very quick, then and it didn't cost you a load of GPU and CPU turns and cost you a lot of money, then probably you don't need to protect it. It's more ephemeral at that point, right?
Mhm.
However, if that did cost you a lot of time, effort, money in resources, in time, etc., then it probably should be backed up. The way in which I look at AI infrastructure is twofold. One is the vector database is just a database, right? It's full of data that
Well,
probably needs protecting if it's important data or it can't be recreated quick enough. I think the other area of what I'm seeing is how do we protect the whole configuration of that pipeline? It isn't just an infrastructure as code or a Terraform state file that looks after this. There's generally a lot of configuration, a lot of complexity that builds up these AI pipelines that are building out training models, etc. So there's twofold. Do you protect the database? I can't answer that. It depends. And the second thing is the configuration of that. And again, that depends. Hopefully you've got that in some sort of source code repository and you just play it that way. But they're just the conversation. I honestly don't care whether you buy Veeam or not. I don't get paid on it. So it's about just raising awareness of when you should back up stuff.
okay, I think like that's pretty much it. Julia, last remarks by you.
I mean, I just think it's important to think about that, and I'm glad that we were able to chat and talk a little bit about Veeam, what we do there, and we'll be at KubeCon. So if anyone wants to chat with us or connect with us on LinkedIn, or talk about anything else besides backup, we we talk too much about backup sometimes. So yeah, anything else, community, open source, I like those as well.
Okay, that's super cool. So with that, I think we'll finish, and thanks a lot.
Thank you.